Welcome back, YouTube family, and Happy New Year. So, first, let's deal with a touchy subject. Starting with the book of Romans, I am being led by the Spirit to start right here, because man and even the Church of God are in great error. Before I study, let's look at a summary from the Bible Knowledge Commentary, which may be found on the Logos Bible Study website. Then we will dive into the first chapter of the book of Romans. It deals with God's righteousness, which is revealed in condemnation, 1:18. The first step in the revelation of the righteousness that God provides for the people by faith is to set forth their need for it, because they are under God's judgment. The human race stands condemned before God and is helpless and hopeless apart from God's grace. A. Condemnation against pagan humanity, 1:18 through 32. This section looks at the human race prior to the call of Abraham and the establishment of the special people of God, the Israelites. This situation persisted in the pagan world of the Gentiles, who were clearly distinct from the Jews. 1. The reasons for the condemnation. God never condemns men without a just cause. Here are 3 reasons that are stated for his judgment of the pagan world. A. For suppressing God's truth. This verse serves as a topic sentence for the entire section. In addition, it stands in contrastive parallel to verse 17. The continuing revelation, the verb is being revealed, is in the present tense of the wrath of God, is an expression of his personal righteousness, which is also being revealed, and is in opposition to human sinfulness. Therefore, people need the continuing revelation of God, a righteousness which only comes from God. God's wrath is directed against all the godlessness or lack of proper reverence for God, and wickedness or unrighteousness of men, and not against the men as such. God's wrath will also be revealed in the future in chapter 2 and 5. God hates sin and judges it, but loves a sinner and desires their salvation. Failure to give God his due reverence inevitably results in the failure to treat God's people the right way, which are created by God in his image, and the people in their unrighteousness toward others continue to suppress and are literally holding down the truth concerning both God and man. The people had God's truth but suppressed it, refusing to heed to it, and these wicked men did this with an attitude of wickedness. This suppression of the truth is Paul's first reason for God's condemnation of the pagan world. B. For ignoring God's revelation, verses 19 through 20. These verses declare that the knowledge concerning God is available to all. This knowledge is called natural revelation because it is seen in the created world and is accessible to the human race, and is not soteriological, dealing with the salvation of men that is affected by Christ. In 1:19, Paul called this knowledge plain, which means visible or clear. This is true because God has made it plain. Some scholars translate the phrase "to them" as "in them," insisting that verse 19 is speaking of the knowledge of God within the being of man through conscience and also religious consciousness. So therefore, verse 19 states the fact of natural revelation, and verse 20 explains the process. One support for this view is the word "for," which begins verse 20 and indicates a tie between the verses. What may be known about God is now called God's invisible qualities and identified as his eternal power and divine nature. Since God is spirit, John 4:24. His qualities are invisible to the physical eyes and can be understood by the human mind only as they are reflected in what has been made, that is, in God's creative work. The self-existent God, however, is the creator of all things, and therefore, since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities have been clearly seen. Paul may have intended a play on words between the noun translated invisible qualities and the verb translated clearly seen, because they share a common Greek root. Both the verb clearly seen and the participle being understood are in the present tense, which emphasize the continuous nature of the action. The word theodos, translated divine nature, occurs only here in the New Testament and embraces those properties which make God God. Creation, which people see, reveal God's unseen character, the all-powerful deity. An Old Testament parallel to these verses is in Psalms 19, 1-6. Paul's conclusion to this description of natural revelation is important. Men are without excuse. The witness to God in nature is so clear and so constant that ignoring it is indefensible. Their condemnation is not based on their rejecting Christ, of whom they have not seen, but on their sinning against the light that they have. So join me by watching the next video. We will be diving into the book of Romans. We will do an expository study over it. We will be exegeting the scriptures so that we can find out what Paul is trying to convey to the people. Amen. I'll see you there.